The dust stung my eyes, a gritty film coating my tongue as I clung to Father's back. Each jolt of the galloping horse sent a fresh wave of pain through my bruised ribs. Fear, cold and sharp, clawed at my throat, making it hard to breathe. Behind us, the shouts of the Roman soldiers echoed, growing fainter with each desperate stride of our weary mare, but never quite disappearing. They were like shadows, relentless and hungry, eager to snatch us back to the gilded cage from which we dared to flee. A cage made all the more cruel by the treachery of those closest to us. Father's breath hitched with each strange exhalation. I could hear the tremor that ran through his body. He was no warrior, my father, Ptolemy XII. He was a scholar, a lover of music and wine, a man more comfortable with papyrus scrolls than with swords. Yet, here he was, his royal robe snagged and torn, his face etched with a terror I mirrored in my own heart, a terror compounded by the fresh wound of betrayal. My own mother and my sister, Berenice, had turned against him, against us, their ambition a viper in our own home. The wind whipped past my ears, carrying the scent of the dry Egyptian earth, a smell that usually brought me comfort, but now only served as a reminder of what we're leaving behind. The familiar grandeur of Alexandria, the whispering halls of the palace, the adoration of our people, all traded for this raw, unforgiving reality of flight, and the bitter knowledge that our own blood had orchestrated this fall. We plunged into a thicket of date palms, the sharp fronds lashing at my face. I squeezed my eyes shut, burying my face in the rough fabric of Father's tunic. The mare stumbled, nearly throwing us, and Father cursed under his breath, a rare and unsettling sound. "Hold tight, my little serpent," he gasped, his voice rough. "We will lose them. We must." But even as he spoke the words of reassurance, I felt the doubt that gnawed at him, the same doubt that coiled in my own stomach. How long could we outrun the might of Rome? How long before their relentless pursuit ended with our capture, or worse? And how could we ever trust again, knowing the venom that could bloom in the hearts of those we loved? The image of Pompey's stern face flashed in my mind, his cold and calculating as he dictated terms to Father. I was just a child then, barely old enough to understand the intricacies of power, but I had sensed the humiliation in Father's bold head, the simmering resentment in the eyes of our loyal advisors. Now that resentment had boiled over into open conflict, fueled by the treachery of my own kin, and we were paying the price. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of blood orange and bruised purple, we finally slowed our pace, seeking refuge in the shadow of a crumbling temple. The silence that descended was heavy, broken only by the mare's soft snorts and our ragged breathing. Father gently slid me from his back, his hands trembling as he checked for injuries. His gaze, usually filled with scholarly detachment, was now sharp with a desperate protectiveness. "Are you hurt, my Cleopatra?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. I shook my head, though my body ached in a dozen places. The physical pain was nothing compared to the fear that still clung to me, a suffocating shroud, and the burning anger at the betrayal that had cost us into this nightmare. Looking out at the vast, unforgiving landscape stretched before us, I knew that this was just the beginning. Our lives had been irrevocably altered, our destiny thrown into chaos, not just by Rome's ambition, but by the poisonous ambition within our own family. In that moment, huddled in the ruins of a forgotten god's sanctuary, a fierce resolve began to bloom within me. I would not be a victim. I would survive. I would remember this fear, this humiliation, this betrayal, and I would use it. One day I would reclaim what was ours. One day, Rome, and those who dared to call themselves family, would know the fangs of the serpent they sought to crush. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Brandon. And let's take a trip with the Time Travelers Club. So we finally made it. It's been weeks of background and world building, but we're finally getting into one of my favorite stories of all time. We've arrived at the year 69 BCE. The Nile flowed, a lifeblood through the sun drenched sand, just as it had for millennia. But the Egypt into which Cleopatra the was born was not the land of pharaohs of old. This was Ptolemaic Egypt, a kingdom forged in the aftermath of Alexander the Great's conquests. For nearly 3 centuries, the Ptolemaic dynasty of Macedonian Greek descent had ruled over this ancient land, blending Hellenistic sophistication with Egyptian tradition. The capital, Alexandria, was the jewel of the Mediterranean, a bustling hub of commerce, culture, and intrigue. Its famed library housed the wisdom of the known world, and its harbor teemed with ships from distant lands, laden with treasures and ambitions. Yet, beneath the veneer of Hellenistic grandeur, tensions simmered. The Ptolemaic rulers, while embracing some Egyptian customs, remained largely Greek in their language and courtly life. This created a delicate balance, often disrupted by power struggles, both within the royal family and between the Greek elite and native Egyptian populace. So let's take a moment to imagine the daily rhythms within the Alexandrian palace. Beyond the grand ceremonies and state affairs, there would have been a constant flow of courtiers, advisors, diplomats, and petitioners. Young Cleopatra would have observed these interactions, perhaps eavesdropping on occasion, as precocious children often do, and absorbed the subtle cues of power dynamics, flattery, and negotiation. She would have witnessed the delicate balance her father attempted to maintain between the Greek elite, the Egyptian priesthood, and the ever looming Roman presence. Remember, last time we discussed, he was not, he was more than likely not destined to rule. So there's all of this going on, and all these people that he's got to try to balance, and he's not even trained for it. So
It's it is
but
definitely educational.
yeah,
Trial by
and I think
fire.
yeah, and I think this will lead later. Like, I mean, he was a learned man, and so therefore he already appreciated like education. But like when we talk, one of the things Cleopatra's really well known for is her ability to take on languages and all this other crap. Like, and we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but like just like thinking about that, those were all things I'm sure he was thinking that would have been useful to know. I want to make sure my kids don't, or at least Cleopatra, who really took to it, have that opportunity that I didn't, you know?
Absolutely.
So the education of a Ptolemaic princess wasn't solely academic. It would have also encompassed courtly intrigue and etiquette, the art of presentation, the understanding of royal responsibilities. Cleopatra would have learned how to conduct herself in public, how to engage with dignitaries, the importance of projecting image of authority and grace, and she might have participated in religious processions and royal ceremonies, absorbing the symbolism and significance of these events in reinforcing the legitimacy of Ptolemaic rule. Again, these are all things that I don't think her dad would have gotten trained on, like I mean, and I feel like this, my theory is that she's the favorite child, and this kind of shows it, because like, why would
Yeah.
he go, especially for, a girl, go through all of this trouble, Like, I know like women and queens and princesses, yeah, like etiquette and things like that are important, but like all like how to deal with dignitaries, that wouldn't have been on the top of the list. It's like, yeah, I mean, queens should know, but like, it's not on the top of the list. In theory, your husband should be doing all that, right? Wherever you're getting
In
sent off
theory.
to.
In
Um,
theory.
you know, in the image of projecting authority, like that's, I mean, there's always like a regal air that queens are supposed to have, don't get me wrong, but like that, again, it just, all of this combined, these are all things he wasn't necessarily trained on. So I do find that kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Because he kind of gets written off as this kind of like jovial joke of a guy. And, you know, I mean, to me, this seems like someone who really, he understood his place in the world, how he got there, and he wanted to make sure that lessons were learned for his own kids, I guess. So, considering the potential influence of her siblings, while historical records are somewhat fragmented regarding her younger siblings, Ptolemy the 13th, Arsinoe the 4th, and Ptolemy the 14th, their presence would have created a dynamic within the royal household. Sibling rivalries were a reoccurring theme, as we learned last time, aka sister cousin niece murdering,
Ugh.
like as wife, like sticky situations. And like royalty is known for killing siblings. Don't get me wrong. I feel like that's not unheard of, but like it just feels like honestly you were better off like in the slums than being in the royal palace. Like your like mortality rate, your life expectancy was low. Like, ugh.
Agreed.
um, but these interactions could have shaped her understanding of alliance and betrayal within her own family.
Despite the Hellenistic focus of the Ptolemaic court, the underlying Egyptian culture would have been a constant presence in Alexandria. The grand temples dedicated to Egyptian deities like Isis and Serapis stood as powerful reminders of Egypt's ancient heritage. Cleopatra's unprecedented fluency in the Egyptian language suggests a deliberate effort to connect with this aspect of her kingdom. Perhaps she sought out Egyptian scholars or priests, or maybe she simply had a natural affinity for the language and culture. This engagement would have provided her with a deeper understanding of the Egyptian people, their traditions, and their potential for loyalty or resistance. The stories and myths of ancient Egypt that might have been shared with her by some of her closest nurses and native household staff. The tales of powerful pharaohs, the mysteries of the afterlife, and the rich symbolism of Egyptian art and religion probably sparked her imagination and instilled a sense of long history over which she was destined to rule. This connection to Egyptian culture would later prove to be a significant asset in her efforts to solidify her rule and gain the support of her native subjects. But, ruining every beach trip, there were sharks lurking in the water. The Roman influence during Cleopatra's early life wasn't just a distant threat. It was a tangible reality. We've already seen it before with Berenice III and her brother husband murdered Ptolemy XI after they forced them to marry each other. To the dismay of many in Egypt, Roman officials and merchants would have been a common sight in Alexandria, their presence a constant reminder of Rome's growing power and meddling in their affairs. So it's no surprise that Ptolemy XII's continuous reliance on Roman financial support and military intervention would have been a source of both security and humiliation for the Egyptian court. Consider the impact of figures like Pompey the Great. His involvement in Ptolemy XII's restoration in 55 BC would have made a lasting impression. The young Cleopatra would have witnessed the sheer power of Roman legions and the extent to which her father was indebted to a Roman general. This experience likely instilled in her a deep understanding of Rome's military might and the necessity of engaging with Roman leaders strategically. The stories of Roman conquests and the growing reach of the Republic would have been circulating in Alexandria. Cleopatra, with her sharp intellect, would have undoubtedly grasped the implications of Egypt's future. This awareness might have fueled a desire to find a way to preserve Egypt's independence and perhaps even leverage Roman power for her own ambitions.
Cleopatra's early life, therefore, was a complex tapestry woven with the threads of Hellenistic privilege, Egyptian heritage, political instability, and the looming presence of Rome. These diverse influences likely contribute to the development of her unique persona, a blend of Greek intellect, Egyptian mystique, and shrewd political acumen. Her linguistic abilities were not just a scholarly achievement, they were a tool for diplomacy and connection. Her understanding of Egyptian culture was not just academic, it was a means of forging a stronger bond with her people, which I mean, what a concept. It only took them 300 years to get there, but
I
hey,
mean,
you know,
actually understand your people and they might actually like you. Go figure.
right, like you don't need a translator just to talk to your own people. Like
That's
that to me
God. That's
that's
such
the
a fucked
wildest.
up aspect.
I mean, like to me, that's the wildest part of this. I mean, like, yeah, there's empires, right? Like the Persian Empire, like the Achaemenids, right?
Yeah.
And well, but even they were usually multilingual, like, you know, but like I could understand in that instance, like, okay, maybe they don't speak Egyptian, right? Because they're all the way in like Persia, ruling from there, you know, or maybe they don't speak Greek right off the bat because again, they're in Persia. But could you imagine a Persian king not speaking Persian? Like that's weird. It's like how did this thrive for this long without people really knowing the people or understanding it other than at a surface level? And everything that you see out there shows that really, like, other than like, oh, like a mild interest or how understanding you have to do certain things to appease the public, it's all very bare minimum, like surface level crap.
Well, yeah,
Cleopatra's
and
like
that
the
is.
first and last one to really actually not just embrace it, but actually understand it.
Mhm.
And I think that leads to people going, you know, because she's Macedonian Greek, right?
Mhm.
But because she was so good at understanding the culture and really embracing it, that's why I think people question whether she was Macedonian Greek all the way through. Because up until this point, none of them were, you know?
Yeah.
So he passed as a native, if you will, you know? But by the time her father died, because spoiler alert, he died. I think we can assume that, right? He's not
I
still
mean,
alive.
he's not immortal, you know.
He's right, right. Um, Cleopatra was far more than just a princess inheriting a throne. She was a young woman who had been shaped by a unique set of circumstances, possessing, of course, a keen intellect, a multilingual fluency, a growing understanding of the political realities, the nascent ambition not to just rule, but to reign effectively in a world increasingly dominated by Rome. Her early life was the fertile ground from which her remarkable and ultimately tragic story would blossom. As we mentioned earlier, Ptolemy XII's reign was characterized by a delicate balancing act, maintaining royal authority while appeasing the ever growing power of Rome. His decision to spend vast sums to secure Roman recognition in 59 BCE, though achieving his immediate goal, sowed the seeds of deep resentment within Egypt, which again makes sense.
Mhm.
The populace bore the brunt of his financial burden through increased taxation, and they viewed his reliance on Roman bribes as a sign of weakness and a betrayal of Egyptian sovereignty. The annexation of Cyprus by Rome in 58 BCE proved to be the tipping point. Cyprus had been a Ptolemaic possession for centuries, and its loss, without any significant resistance from Ptolemy XII, was seen as a profound humiliation and a clear indication of his prioritizing Roman favor over Egyptian interests. This even ignited widespread anger and provided impetus for open rebellion in Alexandria because, as we have seen before, Alexandria does not need much reason to hang you, burn you, kill you. They love a good riot.
They love a good riot. You know what? We're just going to call them the mob. Alexandria, they are the mob.
Like, it's not even that organized. That's the thing.
No, no,
It's
no.
just
No, no,
like,
no. Not mob like that. Not mob like,
oh, okay.
like the Sopranos or anything like that. Mob like mob mentality.
Yeah, like I said, they're giving very Parisian vibes. Like,
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
you don't need to give them much reason. Like,
It's like,
I
give
mean,
me a
granted,
reason.
Parisians aren't
Give
hanging
me a
people from
reason.
street. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Parisians today aren't exactly hanging people from street lamps, but like even today, you don't need to give them much reason to have a big ass protest. I don't want to say riot because that makes it sound like they're the aggressor there, but like they know how to party. That's all I'm saying. And so do the Alexandrians, apparently. So
Absolutely.
the uprising, this current one in Alexandria, was not a general revolt against a disliked king. It involved a significant family betrayal because the plot thickens. The Alexandria populace, fueled by their discontent to Ptolemy the 12th, turned to his eldest daughter, Bernice the Fourth, aka Bernie Sanders 2.0, and they proclaimed her the rightful queen of Egypt. Now, Bernice the Fourth, likely in her late teens or early 20s at this time, found herself thrust into a position of power by popular demand. You don't tell the mob no,
Well, if you tell them
right?
no, you die. So you
I
don't tell them no.
So I want to throw this out there a little bit, and we'll talk a bit more. But like, just keep that in your mind. I'm not saying she's innocent, but we don't know. So while historical sources don't offer detailed accounts of her motivations or feelings about her father's deposition, it's clear that she accepted the throne and ruled Egypt in his absence. That's all we know. Yes, she accepted the throne and she ruled while he was not there. That's all we know. Could it be that she saw an opportunity, rose up, and overthrew her own father and blah, 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 blah? Sure. I mean, like, that will not only has that happened before, but it will happen again with, spoilers, with a sister of hers, two of them. So, and they were
Yeah.
around that same age. Actually, one of them was younger. So, like, it's not, but at the same time, we don't have a diary. She wasn't like, Dear Diary, I overthrew my dad today. Like,
Gosh, I
um,
wish we did though. I wish we
but like,
did.
it could But like we just kind of mentioned too, like it could just as easily have been the mob shows up at your door, and this has happened many times throughout history. And like, what are you going to do? Tell them no? They'll kill you. Like so. It could just as easily have been she was kind of forced into this position, and she was going to try to hold the fort down until he could come back.
Hmm.
We'll see how that all plays out. So further complicating things, because we love this family, was the involvement of a mysterious Cleopatra the Sixth, who may have been, as we discussed last time, none other than her long lost mother, Cleopatra the Fifth. Honestly, if this was true, then this whole thing makes a lot more sense. I mean, like, again, it's not that it's unprecedented for a teenager to rise up, but like, I do feel like if it's her mom, you have a little more confidence, right?
Well,
Or at the
yes.
very least, it's like your mom is the one like who organized everything, and she's using you as the quote unquote legitimate one to like rule, and then she's kind of like a regent puppet person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, puppet master
Like,
over there.
yeah, and I don't like saying puppet master per se because like that only, but like definitely like the idea of like, okay, this guy is a chump. He's a joke. We need to get him out of here. I can't be queen because I'm not, I guess, related enough because I mean, but what for whatever reason feels like she can't. If the public's not going to, right,
Not
right,
related enough. That is such a joke. You gotta
Which I
inbreed
mean,
like 2 more generations to be related enough. Jesus.
right, like right. But my point is just that like for whatever reason, because we talked about last time too, like if this is the case, we have no idea why she fell from grace. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
reason why she feels like she can't rule legitimately if this theory is true, right? Whatever it is, right? She would choose to rule through her daughter, right?
Hmm.
And like until her daughter becomes of age or for whatever reason. So it's not impossible, especially if she just wanted the figurehead for an unruly Alexandrian court. However, because, muddying it up, depictions of Bernice IV show her as being quite determined and strong willed, which I mean, I feel like this is a family pattern.
A little bit.
Our Cleopatra, has never been accused of being demure and shy, like
No.
ever. Her mom clearly wasn't. If this is all true, we know that her whatever she is, Cleopatra III, great grandma, grandma, aunt, I don't know, whatever, namesake, was definitely a strong, independent lady who had no problem deposing her own relatives,
Hmm.
and ruling. So, like, I just feel like this is just a family trait. Like, these are some strong ass ladies, and I can believe it.
I,
So,
I agree.
if any of it makes more sense than someone with experience was just tying things up and would have strengthened not only Bernice's claim, but reassured the nobles to risk their lives on a young girl. So, like, if nothing else, right? It's like, okay, Bernice by herself, that's not enough. Cleopatra, her mom, not enough. But together, it's like, okay, you've got wisdom and like legitimacy, and like she's young. So some people are like, maybe we can manipulate her, mold her, or others are like, at least there's a continuation, right? Like,
Yeah.
and either way, both of them are saying, do you want to continue being Rome's bitch? And
Yeah.
Alexandrians are like, say less. So,
When the uprising reached its peak, Ptolemy XII was forced to flee Egypt in 58 BCE. He didn't go alone. While the exact composition of his entourage is definitively not known, it's highly probable that some loyal members of his court and potentially some of his children accompanied him. As previously discussed, it's strongly suspected that the young Cleopatra VII, who would have only been around 11 or 12 years old at the time, was among those who went into exile with her father. This experience would have been a stark contrast to the privileged life of a princess in Alexandria. She would have witnessed firsthand the vulnerability of royal power and the necessity of external support. Other children of Ptolemy XII, including his younger daughter Arsinoe IV and his sons Ptolemy XIII and Ptolemy XIV, were likely left behind in Egypt during this period. Their experiences under the rule of their half sister Berenice IV would have varied, but they would have undoubtedly been aware of the dramatic shift in the political landscape and the precariousness of their family's position. Ultimately,
yeah, I mean,
like this is
like,
this is wild.
yeah, and
Leaving
like,
the babies behind. Like I can't
well,
I can't.
what's really wild to me, right? And this, like, again, no facts, just vibes. Um, I mean, some inference based off of this information, right?
Mhm.
Like, Cleopatra is the one he grabs, not the heir, not the spare Cleo. And
And
like, it's again, we're seeing it's not.
I have to wonder if she had shown such like promise that if
Yeah,
she had stayed, she would have been killed.
yeah, and you'll see this like going on too. Like, he's like, the way you could read it is that he's always wants her to rule. And even when, he does things later when he's dying, like, it's done in a way that almost looks like he was just trying to secure her rule, with no spoilers there. But
Ultimate
like,
daddy's girl,
yeah,
but
yeah, But I just find that interesting that he didn't grab any of the other kids, just her.
And
You know,
I have to wonder what the dynamic was there between the siblings, if anything, because
uh, well, clearly not great. Like,
well, obviously not great, but if the three kids that were left behind, we know that they were left behind. Um, why were they not a threat to Berenice the Fifth?
yeah,
Why were they not seen as a
yeah.
threat? Because I have to imagine, just, from
Well, they were
context
really,
clues and
yeah.
gathering these things, why was Cleopatra seen as a threat to this
Mm-hmm.
mysterious Cleopatra the Sixth, which may have been her own mother
Well,
and
and it's
her
I
sister?
almost don't I almost don't even think it's a threat so much situation. He's just like I think when you're in the moment and you're panicking, he just grabbed the first thing he grabbed was her. You
Mm-hmm.
know? Like it's not even thinking. Like what's the one thing you can't and this is almost again giving it like too much him give it him giving too much thought, but like breaking it down would be like your instincts to grab the most important thing in the world to you, which is sad that wasn't
Yeah.
all of his kids, but
No,
yeah. And later on,
and you have
because like
to,
spoiler,
yeah.
I was gonna say spoiler alert, her siblings don't have great ends, and they
Yeah.
all kind of involve her. But
Yep.
like you'll notice that like they all kind of rise against her later in life, right? At different
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they feel cold towards her. They don't like her. But you don't hear about them doing that to each other. So like it's I think if nothing else, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like dad, your dad's favorite, we were the ones who got left behind. Fuck you. You know, we
Possible.
had to survive that shit together. Don't pretend like you know what that was like for us. You know, like there was just a
Very
meet in a
possible.
family where they're already trying to kill each other and shit. That I mean, like you're just that was just never going to happen. You know, like her being all close and touchy feely with them. You know, they're bonded in this trauma because I'm sure they were terrified. You know, like because it at a whim, if like her Bernice or Cleopatra or whatever, well, Cleopatra, her mom Cleopatra, decided that those babies were a threat,
They would have been gone.
yoink, like they killed. But
They would have been
that's
gone.
also like we talked about last time. You know, we were debating on like whether these some of these younger kids were Cleopatra, the fifth/sixth there.
Yeah.
Like on the one hand, it seems weird that if she was falling from grace, why was she still making babies with this guy? But the fact that they survived this period and they weren't just like immediately killed
Yeah.
tells
It kind
me
of
that
leads
like
to
are you
the
going to kill your own baby?
maybe they were her kids and she didn't want to destroy her kids, but at the same time, you have to think they
Right.
are part of the legitimate lineage. They are
This
a
is like this
pawn.
and this is the glaring hole in the story, right?
Yeah.
Is Cleo's mom. If we could find out what the hell happened to her, had any shred of info on this lady, it would fill in so many holes, right? Also,
Yeah.
it could raise questions depending on how it played out. But like, for example, if this was the mom, if not like, Cleopatra the Sixth is the same person as the fifth. And that also she gave birth to these kids and we knew why she fell from grace and all this crap it would answer the question of like why she rose up, what were the motivations, why those kids were kept alive, things like that. We just, but
We
like
don't know.
all of it is guesswork because we literally, this lady's a ghost
Yeah, and she pops up out of nowhere. The fifth
with
disappears, and
no
then the
context,
sixth just boom, she's there. Whose cooter did she fall out of? Like
but like
Jesus.
no, right. But also no context. Like we know, boom, she's there, question mark, but like her involvement, any of it, all question marks. We can make
Yeah.
educated guesses and inferences based off. But at the end of the day, there's still a gaping hole there. We just don't have enough info.
Yeah. And that's one of those things where like we can try we can try to piece them together, but realistically, until we find concrete proof in the sands of Egypt, we don't know.
Which again, that's if there is any, because
Exactly.
we're working with the idea that everything is always documented. If she's
That's a Roman
more of a
concept though.
right, but even then, first of all, ill women.
Ultimately, Ptolemy XII's exile led him to Rome, the center of power he had so diligently courted. He spent years lobbying influential Roman figures, primarily Pompey, for assistance in regaining his throne. He incurred massive debts, essentially mortgaging the future of Egypt to secure Roman military intervention. His time in exile was marked by desperation, political maneuvering, and a relentless focus on his restoration.
Meanwhile, Bernice IV's reign as Queen of Egypt lasted approximately 3 years, which again, I feel like to keep the other 3 potential threats alive, especially the boys, right?
Yeah,
Like that's kind of wild, you know?
a little bit.
Unless someone's kind of protecting them. While details of her rule are scarce, she appears to have been a figurehead, which, with real power likely residing with other influential individuals, perhaps even her own mother, or other factions within Egypt. And yes, as a lone woman ruling Egypt, she was expected to marry and have a man as the co regent. Because heaven forbid she hold power and make choices as a woman alone. That's
Never.
just nonsense. That's just nonsense. Her moon blood would confuse her poor little head. Like, what would they do once a month? Or if she was preggers, like, oh my, well, to be fair, she'd have to be married to do that. But
Not
still,
necessarily, but you know.
well, in their eyes, she should. Yeah, but I agree. Like, baby girl, she can't even rule on her own. What makes you think that you can like have a man without being married? Ugh.
Exactly.
Anyway, God. But anyway, so her, so of course her advisors first tried to arrange a marriage with 2 Seleucid princes. So those are the Persians, right? A different, flavor of Persian, right? Um, big empire. Both descended from Ptolemy the 13th because everyone's related. Or
Well,
sorry, I said Ptolemy the 13th. That would have been really awkward. He was like 5.
uh,
Ptolemy the 8th. Ptolemy the 8th. God, these
the
names.
Roman numerals are
So,
fucking us up. It happens, okay? It happens.
yeah. So Ptolemy the 8th. So again, still keeping it in the family, even when you're marrying outside of your own country. We love this for us.
It just sounds like the royal families of Europe.
This is a little more like, I mean, I guess they're a little more removed now, you know? I mean, it's still gross because they're like cousins of some kind, but like, like you're marrying your brother most of the time here. So like, she must be, I would have
This
been
is
excited. Been
distant
like, you mean I don't have
relation.
to, you mean I don't have to bone like my half brother? Thank you.
Ugh.
So the first one was the son of Cleopatra Selene of Syria, because again, we all have the same names. He died while negotiations were in progress. Perhaps suspiciously so, as Bernice didn't seem too enthused by this relationship.
Oh.
The second was a grandson of Tryphonea and Atticus, Atticus, like from fucking To Kill a Mockingbird. These names. Anticus. The 8th, Gripus. I'm going to call him Gripus. That seems like, like a name. He
Yeah.
was all, and their child, this is a real hard one, guys. This prince, his name was Philip.
Thank God.
Philip. Yeah. So
Thank
Bernice and Philip, he was forbidden by the Roman governor of Syria to accept this invitation. Again, not exactly their business. But I guess everyone was too afraid of them at this point. Personally, I would have called them out on it. Been like, you know what? I remember what happened to the last Bernie, okay? That's why I'm 2.0. No. Last time you arranged a marriage for a Bernie, it didn't end well for her.
God, no.
Stay out of it. So maybe if someone had some of their crap that came later, this all would have been avoided. The Alexandrians then, thirdly, arranged a marriage with a man called Seleucus, connected to the Seleucid royal house. He may have been another son of Cleopatra Selene of Syria, perhaps Seleucus the seventh. Alternatively, he may have been the illegitimate son of one of the Seleucid kings. When he arrived in Alexandria, the Alexandrians were shocked by his vulgar appearance and manners and nicknamed him Tibiosates, salt fish monger. I feel like, I mean, it doesn't sound flattering, but I think the like reference is a little lost to time here. I guess salt fishmonger
Salt fishmonger. Oh no. Oh no, think about it. Saltfish. How was their preservation at that time period? Salt, smoking,
yeah,
a salt
yeah.
fishmonger. So we're looking at potentially fermented fish smell, and oh god, oh.
I was just thinking, like, like you swear like a sailor. That's more where my brain went, was that he was just this rude, vulgar person, like sailors kind of are. But yeah, I think we've got the same ideology. Apparently, we're not a fan of people who make a living off of the ocean.
Not when they have no manners. I'm sorry, if you're literally being called to become a king, act like it.
Yeah. Well, Bernice also didn't like him, apparently, because after a few days of marriage, she was unable to bear with his coarseness and vulgarity and felt that he could not command the respect of the populace. So, what do you think she did?
What did she do?
Wasn't a divorce. There's only one way to deal with this. You can't sit him down. There's no Princess Diaries moment where we learn how to be a proper king. No. We strangled him. And you know what? Good for her. Good for her. She got him before he got her.
You know what? I kind of appreciate it, because if he's so vulgar that people dislike him just for his speech, she literally was like, shut the fuck up. Shut
it's just
fuck up.
like, I love this because, she's like, I remember Bernie, 1.0. I'm Bernie 2.0. This is an upgrade. Like, we kill before we get killed,
Absolutely.
So good for her, The court, because apparently they are not learning any lessons here, then arranged a marriage with a Greek called Archelaus. Archelaus had been appointed Prince Pontiff at a temple of the Great Mother at Comana in Pontus, as you are, by Pompey, and claimed to be the son of King Mithridates of Pontus, and if so, to be distantly related in blood to the Ptolemies, because family.
Stick together.
Strabo instead says his father was also called Archelaus, one of the chief marshals of Mithridates the sixth in the First Mithridaic War, who defected to the Romans. At that time, Archelaus was an associate of Aulus Galbinus, that Syrian governor that didn't like one of the other marriages, and had hoped to join with him on an expedition against the Parthians. Gabinus, furthermore, had become suspicious of Archelaus' associations with the Egyptians and had him arrested. Persuaded, though, that Archelaus was no threat, and perhaps bribed, Gabinus voluntarily released him. In the winter of 56 to 55 BCE, Archelaus came to Egypt, married Bernie 2.0, and was given a title of king. Although he is not known to be mentioned in documents as his wife's formal co-ruler, and is presumed she never allowed him to become one. Which, again, you go, girl. She's learning.
Absolutely. Give men
Oh.
power, they will take everything. Don't do it.
It's giving like more modern equivalent, like Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip vibes. You know, like
A
no,
little
you don't
bit.
get to
I
be
could see
king.
it. It's like you're not king, you're a
Nope,
consort.
right, and you're not even king consort. You're like prince. Like, no. You know,
I'm just thinking mommy
he,
dommy vibes.
mhm. I
Sit,
like to
little
think he's
boy.
into it. Also, I would like to point out at this point, maybe this would be a source of inspiration for our own Cleopatra. Put a bookmark in this. As all of this was going on, in the meantime, Cleopatra, the mom, sister, we don't know, probably the mom, is believed to have died in 57 BC of, you guessed it, we don't know, unknown causes. She could have like exploded, just boom. We don't know. Like, she could have spontaneously combusted. She could have had the flu. She could have died because a camel tripped and fell on her. We don't know. But whoever she was, she did. So this left young Bernice sole queen of Alexandria for 2 years. But dating apps and swiping left aside, her fate was sealed when Ptolemy XII, backed by Roman military might, returned to Egypt in 55 BCE. The Roman forces, led by a certain Aulus Gabinus, again, easily defeated Egyptian forces loyal to Bernice. And just a little insert, there's a certain young man here. Do you have any guesses who that is?
Caesar?
No. Mark
Oh,
Antony.
Mark Antony. Okay.
Yeah, Mark Antony has not at this point, and we'll discuss this later. But like, no, he hasn't really known Julius Caesar yet. But this is what gets him noticed by Julius Caesar. So like, it's just funny. Like Cleopatra, it's like Cleopatra and him are kind of like always in the same room, but don't ever get the chance to talk. Yeah, like it's just like it's funny. Like the reason
Circling
her
each
dad
other.
comes back is because Mark Antony is in the army that helps bring him back. Like it's just kind of cool. I don't know. It's weird. But it's like small world. But so they easily defeated the Egyptian forces loyal to Bernice. Ptolemy XII, consumed by bitterness and a desire for retribution for the betrayal and loss of his throne, had his own daughter, Bernice IV, executed. R.I.P. Bernie Sanders 2.0. R.I.P. This brutal act underscores the ruthlessness and the ruthless nature of Ptolemaic dynastic politics and the personal stakes involved with these power struggles.
So Ptolemy XII was restored to his throne in 55 BCE, but his authority was significantly weakened. He was deeply indebted to Rome, and the presence of the Roman garrison, the Gabiniani, served as a constant reminder of his dependence on Roman power. His remaining years were spent trying to stabilize his rule under the shadow of Roman influence. He died in 51 BCE, leaving the throne to his daughter Cleopatra VII and his son Ptolemy XIII as joint rulers, a decision that would soon lead to further conflict and exile for Cleopatra herself. The death of Ptolemy XII in 51 BCE was a pivotal moment in Cleopatra's life, marking the end of her period as a princess and the beginning of her reign as the Queen of Egypt. While the specific circumstances surrounding his death are not detailed in surviving historical accounts, we can piece together the likely context and immediate aftermath based on the political climate of the time and the subsequent actions of Cleopatra and the Roman powers. To understand the significance of Ptolemy XII's death, it's crucial to remember that the turbulent nature of his rule. He had spent much of his reign navigating internal dissent and, more significantly, the overwhelming influences of Rome. His desperate need for Roman recognition and military support had left Egypt financially drained and politically vulnerable. The populace often resented his subservience to Rome, and the royal court was likely rife with factions vying for power and influence. Ptolemy XII's will, which became public upon his death, stipulated that his eldest daughter, Cleopatra VII, should rule jointly with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was still only around 10 years old at this time. This arrangement was not unusual for Ptolemaic dynasty, where sibling marriages were often employed to maintain the purity of the royal bloodlines and ensure a co-regency. However, such arrangements frequently led to power struggles and internal conflict, as was soon to be the case with Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII. Given the lack of specific details, we can only speculate on the immediate cause of Ptolemy XII's death. There is no historical evidence to suggest that he was assassinated, although political intrigue was certainly a common feature of this era. It's more likely that he succumbed to illness or natural causes, perhaps exacerbated by the stresses of his precarious reign. He was in his late 50s or early 60s at the time of his death, which was within the typical lifespan for that period. The location of his death was almost certainly Alexandria, the capital and the royal seat of Egypt. As the ruling pharaoh, he would have resided within the royal palace complex. The rituals and ceremonies surrounding his death would have been significant, involving the royal court, the Egyptian priesthood, and likely representatives of the Greek community in Alexandria. His body would have been prepared for burial according to Ptolemaic customs, which blended Greek and Egyptian traditions. While the exact location of his tomb remains unknown, it would have been a site of considerable importance.
And I just thinking about this too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to Bernie's husband?
That is a very good question.
He just poof gone.
He did,
I'm
but
sure
at the
there's a
same
record
time,
out there, but
there has to be a record. And at the same time, like, he was held prisoner and then let go.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he's not there no more. So I very much, I wonder the same thing that you wonder, because that is weird.
Yeah.
That is very weird.
Just like, but so Ptolemy XII's death created a power vacuum, albeit one with a preordinated succession according to his will. However, the fact that the co-ruler was an 18-year-old girl, woman, whatever, and the other, a young boy of 10, created an inherently unstable situation. Powerful advisors and court factions would have immediately begun to maneuver or influence over the young Ptolemy XIII, potentially seeking to undermine Cleopatra's authority because he's 10 and a boy.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a feeling that a 10-year-old boy is not going to want to be told what to do by his older sister.
God,
no. I just feel like, However, Cleopatra was not one to be easily sidelined. Her education, linguistic skills, and her understanding of the political landscape had prepared her for this moment. She likely acted swiftly to assert her position as the senior co-ruler. Her intelligence and charisma would have been crucial in navigating the complex dynamics of the court and the potential challenges to her authority. The will itself, while outlining a joint rule, implicitly placed Cleopatra in a position of seniority due to her age and experience relative to the 10-year-old. This likely provided her with a legal basis to assert her dominance. I don't like the idea of her dominating her brother husband. That's a bad image.
I mean, it's a bad image, but at the same time, it has nothing to do with actual,
I
like,
know. It's just
crushing
like,
power.
no, I mean, like, when we think dominating someone, like if you're dominating your husband, it's
I
well,
mean,
well, well, but he's 10.
yeah, no, but even then, they wouldn't have. I
And there's
really don't
honest.
think that they would have consummated anything realistically.
Oh, and I was gonna say that's a side thing. Like there is no proof that she ever consummated anything. I mean, as you would hope with a 10-year-old. I mean, he's not always gonna be 10, but like through his story. But like, there's no proof that she ever did consummate that union. So yay, she's already breaking away from family traditions.
Woohoo!
But we still have one person left. And what did they think about it? The death of Ptolemy XII also had implications for Egypt's relationship with Rome. He had cultivated ties with these powerful Roman figures, especially Pompey. His will likely reiterated Egypt's dependence on Roman goodwill and may have even requested Roman oversight of the succession. This would have provided Rome with an opportunity to further exert its influence in Egyptian affairs. The Romans, preoccupied with their own internal power struggles at the time, the lead up to a certain civil war between Pompey and Julius Caesar, may not have immediately intervened in Egyptian succession. However, they would have certainly been watching the situation closely, ready to capitalize on any instability that might arise.
Ptolemy XII's death was not just the end of a reign. It was the catalyst that propelled Cleopatra into the forefront of Egyptian politics. It presented her with both an opportunity and a significant challenge. She inherited a kingdom burdened by debt and vulnerable to Rome, now to be ruled jointly with a younger brother who would soon become her rival. The decisions that she made in the immediate aftermath of her father's death would set the stage for her remarkable and ultimately tragic reign, marked by her astute political maneuvering, her famous alliances with Roman leaders, and her unwavering determination to preserve Egypt's sovereignty. His death was the opening chapter in Cleopatra's own dramatic story as the last pharaoh of Egypt.
All right. But that's it for this time. If you like what you heard today, please give us a positive review on whatever and all platforms you listen to this podcast on. It goes a long way for us to appease the algorithm gods and get this suggested to others just like you. The more we can connect to our fellow history nerds, the more we can build up a community and keep this show going. So wherever you are listening to this, whether it be Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube, if you like us, take the time to give us a positive review. It goes a long way for us.
Also, we have a Patreon where you can hang out with us and get exclusive content, like videocasts where we might try to make some ancient recipes, talk about topics that could not fit into the main arcs for the podcast, and then just generally being batshit and dumpster fires. All for the small price of a latte per month. Research materials and books cost a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time for us to create this show, so anything that you can provide would be a huge help.
If you have any ideas, comments, or just want to say hi, you can reach us at timetravelersclubpodcast@gmail.com.
We can't wait to see you again next week, and as always, thank you for listening.
Bye for now.